Hello, my name is Wesley, and I've been slowly tricking out this Jazzmaster to be my forever guitar, my daily driver for life, and I've been looking for the right pickups, and now I'm on my third set. I've been through the stock ones, some Novak single coils, which were great, and these, the Kinman Surfmaster DV, short for dual voice, and the DV Extra in the bridge. I think these ones are staying here permanently. I really like them. They're a matched set of hum-canceling Jazzmaster pickups. Not to be confused with Kinman's basic Surfmasters, the DVs have a coil tap so you can get both bright and dark tones, and both positions are hum-canceling. I'm going to get into the weeds on the details and sound examples, but the very condensed TLDR is as follows. Holy freaking cannoli, these pickups are nice and crazy versatile, but for what Kinman is charging for these things, they freaking better be. The full price breakdown is going to come later. There are also certain considerations regarding installation which you should definitely be aware of, and I will cover them all here. While I am very happy with the product itself, there were certain issues with the transaction that sort of bothered me. I'll give a full list of caveats at the end, but there's one thing that needs to be said right off the top. First off, I paid for these with my own money. There's no artist pricing or sponsorship of any kind. And after my purchase, Kinman customer support asked me to write a user review for the pickups to put on their website since the product is pretty new and they didn't have any reviews yet. I decided to be a chiller and write a pretty uncritical review just highlighting the positives, since they are really good pickups and I thought that they earned a decent testimonial. However, the review that I sent them is not identical to what they posted on their website's review section under my full-on first and last name, and I do not like that. I'll put what I wrote versus what they posted on the screen right now, and you can pause the video for a verbatim side-by-side comparison if you're curious, and then you can decide if you think I'm overreacting in the comments. But concurrently with this video, I will be emailing Kinman to ask them to either post my review verbatim or not at all. The changes aren't massive, but they are pretty meaningful in my view. The first thing they did was correct a minor factual error on my end, and honestly, I'm totally fine with that. The pickups have a coil tap setting, and I was confused about whether the bright or dark setting was the tapped position. They switched the wording to make it factually correct. Fair enough. The part that I'm less chill with is the fact that they also edited my review to contain some additional praise which I didn't write, and in a very different writing style than the rest of the review, I might add, and they deleted 2 sentences that they didn't like. At one point I wrote, the wiring and installation were fairly straightforward, but I would advise having at least moderate wiring and troubleshooting skills if you plan on tackling it yourself. They changed that to, the wiring and installation were fairly straightforward. Full stop. I also wrote, they're made to order, so be advised that there's a bit of a lead time involved. They removed that sentence completely. My order took about a month to build. On their website it says that the turnaround time is typically under a week, but it can be up to a month if they're slammed. They were within that time period, so I could totally understand if they were to message me and say, hey, we're a boutique operation here, that 1 month lead time is pretty normal for custom work, would you be okay if we leave that part out? That would be one thing. I might have said, yeah, fair enough, but you don't just get to edit user reviews without asking. For me, this calls into question every review that I read on these vendor websites. Not only on the Kinman website, but like everywhere. I guess this is probably common practice. In any case, the review I left for Kinman already read like some buzzword-laden Sweetwater ad copy. They didn't need to misquote me. So, Kinman Company, I'm going to be as fair as possible with the remainder of this review/demo, but I done screen capped the receipts on this whole edited review thing, and nobody can edit this freaking YouTube video except for me. But for now I want to talk positives because at the end of the day, I paid my money, I got my pickups, and they are damn fine pickups at that. And that's the main consideration. Okay, so for this bit, I'm going to do the absolute least charitable thing you can possibly do. This cable is going from my guitar directly into my audio interface in the high Z input. There's absolutely no amp sim or anything in there, so this is like a worst case scenario, and I'm just going to quickly go through the main sounds. So I'm going to start out on the bright setting with the bridge position. Middle. Neck. put it on the dark settings. This is the bridge. And neck. So obviously, under no circumstances is my tone going to be just straight DI with no amp sim, no nothing, but it is like surprisingly more usable than I would have expected for just coming straight off the guitar, and I consider that to be a point in these pickups' favor. But let's put some actual effects in the chain and see how this thing would actually sound. One of the sounds I really like is to put both of the pickups in dark mode, put them in series parallel configuration, and then run them through the rhythm circuit. And when we're doing that, the pickup selector doesn't matter at all. And I think this sounds really good through the Marshall Plexi emulation on the Strymon Iridium. And there's no other effects in the signal chain besides a little transparent drive and some compression. Alright, here's the dark neck setting through some effects. It might not be your daily bread and butter, but there are interesting out-of-phase sounds to be had from these pickups as well. So here's our middle position in phase. This is just clean. And now let's whack them out of phase. We're in the bright setting for both. And then we can put one dark and one bright. Switch them. And then both dark. So there are all kinds of interesting EQ curves to be found here without even necessarily touching an EQ pedal. I also like that the bright settings are able to help this thing survive a signal chain that has a lot of muddying modulation effects. Like here's some pretty heavy chorusing. And then we can add phasing. That's a bit overmodulated, but you can still kind of hear what's going on. Like there's enough detail there for it to survive a lot of shenanigans along the way. These pickups are loud. I've got plenty of ways to boost the volume on my board, but you hardly need it. They're bright, articulate, and in the dark setting they don't have a super boomy or muddy low end. I think they're extremely usable in all the positions. Also, the hum canceling is way more effective than the stock Fender noiseless pickups that came on this guitar, and interestingly, they're even more effective than the Kinman pickups in my Strat. I guess they've been cracking the code in the decade or so since my other ones were manufactured. I can pretty much play guitar standing on top of my computer and my computer's monitors with high gain ripping without any crazy EMI that had pretty much had me restricted exclusively to the hum canceling middle position on my single coils. And to be clear, these are way quieter, unwanted noise-wise, in every position than my previous single coils were in their hum canceling middle position. I think the shielding is definitely a part of this equation though, so I would still advise insulating the body cavity. Kinman recommends conductive paint. I used copper tape and my results were perfectly satisfactory to my ears. Real quick before moving on, thank you to the folks who watched and subscribed to my channel after my previous video, which was all about fixing the problems with this Ultra Jazzmaster that it had in its stock form. The neck, tuners, and body are the only original hardware left, and everything else has gone the way of the ship of Theseus. That video has generated far more interest than anything else I've uploaded so far, and I'm really grateful to have seen some growth in the channel from that, so thank you very much. Okay, back to the subject at hand. You might notice this is not exactly a standard Jazzmaster pickguard. This is a custom laser-cut piece of aluminum, and my channel has a tutorial on how to design and order one for yourself. Feel free to check that out. I made this because each dual-voice pickup requires its own 3-pole double-throw switch to toggle between the tapped and full coil settings. According to Kinman, the dark setting is quite close to their Thickmaster pickups, and the bright setting is, in their words, a Surfmaster on steroids. Kinman usually includes a little toggle switch with purchase, but I wanted slide switches that would match the other switches on my guitar, so I sourced my own. Since the pickups cost a friggin' arm and a leg, price breakdown later, I wanted to wring every drop of utility out of them that I could, so I included switches for out-of-phase wiring, series parallel wiring, and a switch that restores the rhythm circuit, which is missing from the stock Ultra Jazzmaster. I went with all 500K pots for the lead circuit, with tone pots being no load with 0.022 microfarad caps. No treble bleed for now. The rhythm circuit has 1 meg for the volume, 50K for tone, and 0.02 microfarad ceramic cap on the tone pot. Now I'd like to take a moment to talk about unboxing and installation. I got some fancy pickups from Novak a while back, and they came wrapped in some brown butcher paper and stuck in a cardboard box, which was fine. But Kinman, they got a whole other deal going here. These things are like ensconced in velvety red stuff in a nice plastic clamshell box, cradled by a perfectly fitted laser-cut cardboard piece so there's zero movement within the package. These things are getting shipped literally halfway around the world from the Philippines, so I'm grateful that the packaging is so secure. Off topic, but they smelled amazing. They had that new tech gadget scent that really gets me every time. They came with protective plastic film over the face of the pickups too, which helped them stay nice, and the wire leads that were attached seemed high quality, although they're not the cloth Gavit wire that some people prefer. Electrically, I don't think that makes any difference. As for installation, the reason I say you should have some moderate skills is because unlike normal pickups, which usually just have a positive and negative lead and maybe a ground wire, the DV has no less than 9 leads to connect per pickup. This made me quite grateful for the larger than average body routing in the JM Ultra, which looks like this. If you have super spare routing, like this for example, you might have a significantly more difficult time getting the wires tucked away where they need to go. Kinman provides leads with solderless crimp connectors which attach to the switches they provide. However, I had them skip this in my case since my switches have a different form factor and the crimps wouldn't have fit anyway. Besides, I trust the solder joint more than a solderless crimp connector, though I'm sure they work fine. Even though I only needed an inch or so of lead on one of the pickups, I was still a little reluctant to trim the leads down, just in case I moved them at some point, so I left them full length and just did a little loop-de-loop for the time being. I know, very naughty. Since we're talking about installation, we can touch on the areas of small business jank that you kind of just have to accept here. There isn't anywhere on the website that I could find with a diagram of how to hook this up, and I had to ask about it via private message after making the purchase. I also don't think that the wiring diagram should be withheld until after you make a purchase, which is why I'm posting it here, right now. Take a screenshot if you want. A wiring diagram is not a trade secret. Just put it on the product page so I can plan my build. These ain't your grandpa's single coils, kiddo. Some level of DIY ethos is involved here if you're going to do the installation on your own, much as the company is trying to do their best to lower the barrier to entry. Moving on, the pickups come with multiple different mounting screws, which is pretty thoughtful. I use the ones that I already have, but I do appreciate it. They also include some surgical tubing to hold the pickups in place instead of the puffy black weather stripping that's typically used in Jazzmasters. And I think the tubing is more legit, and I agree with this choice. I did, however, 3D print some standoffs to account for my guitar's extra deep routing. I found the recommended pickup heights were a bit close and caused a little string pull, but backing them off had no adverse effect. I'm still fiddling with them a bit to get good volume matching between the bridge and the neck, but I'm going to say no problems there. Next, let's talk about the cost. If you go to the Kinman website and drop a matched set of Surfmaster DV and DV extras in your cart, you're going to be looking at about $612, which is a lot for pickups. Double what the Novaks cost. I mean, that's double what entire guitars can cost in some cases. So you can see why my expectations are so high. I wrote that figure down and budgeted out the rest of what I'd need for the mod. After ordering all the new electronics, I went to complete the transaction only to realize that between the shipping insurance, and the currency conversion fees to Philippine pesos, that $612 figure had ballooned to $722, which is like 18% extra. All this for a pair of pickups. Whew. I'd already sunk a bunch of effort into creating the pickguard and all that, so I pulled the trigger anyway. But I gotta say, if I'd realized it was going to be that much, I may have gone a different direction. This one is kind of on me for not anticipating those costs. I get that Kinman doesn't set the exchange rates, but if you're watching this and you live in the US, make sure to tack on an extra 15 to 20% when you're budgeting out your build if you're buying from Kinman. I also gotta say, I think it's pretty insane that they're selling a product that costs over $600 plus shipping, and they didn't bother to record a single second of audio to show what it sounds like. As far as I know, this YouTube video is the only place anywhere online currently where you can actually hear what these freaking things sound like. I mean, look at the Lawler website. They have like 10 example audio files for every pickup. Kinman, get on it. You need to do this. I took a chance on this whopper of a purchase partly because I kind of liked the idea of having access to sounds that very few other people do, and there are examples of similar Kinman pickups, so I kind of knew roughly what I was getting into. But mainly I took the plunge based on reputation. People absolutely rave about Kinman Jazzmaster pickups on offset guitar forums, but now seeing how my own words about Kinman's products have been reshaped, I can't help but don my tinfoil hat and speculate as to whether 100% of that raving is coming from grassroots. If I didn't love playing these pickups so much, I honestly would have just written the company off over this. I'm not trying to start a witch hunt here, but where I stand with Kinman is kind of in the middle. I'm damn curious what a pair of Fat Masters would sound like, and I've heard really good things about them. I would consider doing business with them again, but I've decided that I won't be doing that until I've had the opportunity to play, in person, noiseless pickups from at least one or two of their competitors, such as Lawler, to see how they stack up. Because, like I keep saying, I do love these pickups, but if the competing products are, like, in the same weight class, well, I just don't know yet. The only comparison I've been able to make so far is to the noiseless pickups that came with this guitar, and I'll admit they blow the stock ones out of the water. I can't say whether or not they're better than Lawler or the Creamery or Brandon Wound or anything else. In any case, I guess this channel is sort of starting to turn into watch me spend money on music tech gadgets and then find fault with them and then maybe try to fix it with mods. It's not just that. There's DIY synth content, guitar pedal modifications, and of course original music coming down the line. So by all means, if you're interested in that, make sure to ask that subscribe button to speak to the manager, and tune in next time on My Retro Future. Thank you. My name is Wesley. Goodbye.